Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! Back for another episode of the Draxx Life podcast, where we'll chat about some of the weird and the wondrous. Let's get to the show. We're live. This is another episode of the Draxx Life. We have a special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, the Haitian Wanderer, Joseph Mark, back with us again. It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, we had a little technical difficulties, so we're going to just get right into it. Joe, Trial by Fire, we're throwing it at you. You came up with, we asked him earlier this week, hey, what are some things you want to talk about? He threw us a couple, and I'm going to pitch it back to you, Joe, and you're going to tell us, what are we going to talk about today?
Basically, just trying to figure out how do the masses actually consume media? Well, visual media now. When was the last time you guys actually went to a movie theater?
Oh, okay. Joe, turn your volume down slightly.
Yeah,
and
that's hurting my ears. Yeah.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we had an issue. We had to bypass, using the luxurious professional microphones, and we got Joe from Haiti using his AirPods. Haiti. No, you're right now. You're in Haiti. At least you sound like you are.
He's in the Caribbean, baby.
Drop your mic down to just bring that output down to maybe a 3.
What about now? How does that sound?
This is better, but still a little bit lower.
Let me go lower then.
We're doing live. We're doing live sound check, people. So you got to deal with it.
Okay, you're good, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
that's good.
Okay. Let's get back to it. So you wanted to talk about the difference between entertainment now, how we kind of consumed it as kids, and then what the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Well, first I want to know, why did you want to talk about this?
But before Joe, I got to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Let's do this first. Happy Halloween, everyone. Come on, let's go.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot. Usually we're recording on a Friday. Yes.
What do you
Halloween.
feel? What do you feel in the air? You feel something, boys? It's Halloween, baby. It's a great day. One of my favorite days of the year.
So did you get your hair cut for this character that you're going to be playing?
No, I'll probably just hide it under the hat. I'm going to put the tail and hide it under the fedora. But go ahead, Joe. Yeah. But happy Halloween, everyone. One of my favorite days. It's nice outside. It's a little overcast.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Crisp fall.
I kind of feel like it's a little warm.
Yeah, it's too warm for Halloween. I agree.
But the nice thing is that when it's time for the Halloween festivities, and it'll cool down a little bit. It'll be like the perfect weather for going outside and walking around.
At nighttime, you're correct. Yes. I can't. I'm excited, boys. I'm excited for tonight. We'll see. We might get into that more later, but sorry.
Well, next episode we'll have to talk about this party that you're going to.
Yeah,
I'm kind of curious what will unfold,
what transpires
on this evening.
Yes.
All right, go back to you, Joe. Sorry, this, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while since we've had 3 people, so it's like it's like we've been doing the tango, and now we're doing kind of like line dancing, and so it takes a little bit of time.
You got the conga line up.
Get it all greased back up. All right, go back to you, Joe. Let's go. Why did this subject? Before we kind of get into it, why I'm curious why you want to talk about it. I would have thought we were talking about sports today, honestly, because getting the you two and the on the episode. So why did you want to talk about entertainment?
I was watching Sleepy Hollow on iTunes the other day, and then I also listened to your podcast, and you alluded to just how people watch things differently now. So that's what popped up in my head when I thought about something to talk about today.
Interesting. And you were watching on TV?
Yeah. No. On iTunes on my Apple TV.
Oh, okay. All right, go. What were you gonna say?
Why were you watching Sleepy Hollow? Just because it's the season?
Yeah, it's the season. I love the cinematography of that movie, the music, everything about that movie. Just that time of year.
Yeah, I agree. I love this time of year. This is my favorite week of the year. But
fall is the best season, especially on the East Coast, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, so let me take a little shot at this one, Joe, and then we'll spiral from here because I have a couple other things brewing in the background that we can talk about. So it's funny. I was like on YouTube yesterday. I was kind of popping on different podcasts and whatnot, and they had Shane Gill. It was like an episode of Joe Rogan with like Shane Gillis, Mark Norman, and Ari Shafir, and
Protect our parks. That's
that's what they're called.
That's
so it's funny. They actually brought the same thing up, Joe. They were asking the question, and it was funny because I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today. They were like, when was the last time you listened to the radio? And then like Ari was like, well, whenever I like travel and I have to like rent a car, I listen to the radio. And then they were talking about like, well, when was the last time you like watched a TV show like on TV? And they said it was like, Joe Rogan's like, well, like I don't never. And they were like, it's actually kind of cool because like with TV or back when you had a TV and you had cable, right? You scroll and you're like, oh, and they'd be like, oh, Shawshank Redemption's on. I'm going to watch it, right? Whereas like normally you might not go out of your way to go find it or download it or find it on iTunes or Amazon. But like if it's on and you saw it, it might trigger you to like watch it. Or like you're on, you're in the car, you're flipping through like the radio stations and you find a song that you haven't heard in a long time and you listen to it. And they were saying it's kind of interesting because you'll discover things that way. Whereas now, like, there's so many like kind of algorithms, things that are like thrown at you that you don't really just like find things. It's like things are kind of given to you, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll watch that. So yeah, like how we consume it is different between like when we grew up and like now. So yeah, I mean that's like one thing I would say like that's definitely different between like 10, 15, 20 years ago and like how we consume things now. I don't know if that's kind of, is that in the realm of what you wanted to talk about?
That's a small part of it. Yeah, I I feel like things now are kind of more. There's no mass appointment viewing. Like there used to be a time when like we would watch Game of Thrones every Sunday night in the spring because that was the time to watch it. Now everything is kind of you have to watch it. You kind of binge watch things. It's you can watch anything on your own time. There's no mass community kind of watching something and then talking about it the day after or the days after. So it's the conversation around things that we watch. It's very different now. It's very splintered.
So yeah, there's no. I agree. There's no water cooler talk anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have everyone's kind of like in their own silo. So it's like I watch my entertainment, you watch yours, and like unless it's like I guess it's like high up on the Netflix because there's certain things that do come up. I think like with Netflix or Amazon Prime where like everyone is gonna see it, right? Like Squid Games, right? When that was on, that had a huge. I mean, I didn't watch, but I mean, that was kind of like it had a huge following. It got kind of elevated, so everyone was seeing it, and it kind of like took off where you could kind of watch it. But since it's not like weekly, right? You can't control like with your Game of Thrones example. It was like everyone's gonna watch it, and then that next week they're gonna all talk about it, especially if they watch it. Whereas now there's no real control on that. It's kind of like you can drink from the fire hose or like carry that and spread it out through like the next like week or two. So like everyone's kind of like running a race, but starting at different points. So like that is like a major difference.
Yeah, and that's a good point you raised because you could get something spoiled for you just riding the subway, and someone might say something. And it's true though, and because this is the time before everyone was, because Game of Thrones launched in the series at least launched in 2010, right when the iPhone just came out. Smartphones were just starting to become the norm, but still not really. People still had Blackberries and stuff and all that. And on the subway, people would still have conversations with each other. Whereas now, if you ride the subway in 2024, everyone either has headphones in watching a screen or they're listening to something. So no one's talking on the subway, whereas or in coffee shops anywhere. Everyone is always in their own headspace now. So you can go out freely and avoid the spoilers. Whereas, like you said, you could go to work one day, you walk into the break room, you hear someone is talking about something, and then you're like, damn, I didn't watch it yet, and you just got something spoiled for you. So that's big. That's a big change in society as well.
But
So like, is that
even the conversation around like the media, like let's use Game of Thrones for example, it's kind of truncated now. Like stuff around Netflix is truncated. Like everything, the time frame to talk about certain things is kind of smaller because of binge watching. So there used to be a time where we could talk about like Game of Thrones for like months on end, 2, 3 months, and now because of how we're programmed to watch things with binge watching. It's kind of like a week or two, and then it fades away, and then we're on to the next thing. So I feel like certain kinds of content, it doesn't last as long as it used to in the minds of people who watch it.
yeah, I mean, I think yeah, so you're commenting on like even like it's almost like our consumption pattern has
Hmm.
changed.
It has.
Yeah,
It has.
I mean it has. Like I think it's kind of like yeah, undeniable. Um, well, yeah, I mean think about it. Also like think about the quantity of content now versus then, right? Like
Yeah, that's something I wanted
now
Joe
it's
to
like
get
you
into.
you can binge because there's just really so much.
So much, yep.
Like you could literally, and that's just we're just talking about like I don't know what do you call it, like TV. Not we're not even including music, podcasts, YouTuber. Like right, this is just kind of like scripted content, right? There's just so much of it, right? That like you can binge, like you can watch. You know, if you had a day off, watch almost a whole entire show because tomorrow there's another. There's like endless. Like there's so many. You could do that pattern of binging every day and never repeat itself. Now, what's interesting though is I would say, and I'll bring this guys to you, is like has the quality decreased because of that new pattern, right? Because think about Game of Thrones, 10 episode seasons. How much money was spent per season? Crazy, right? Like you know what I mean? Like insane. Like that's multiple big budget films spread over 10 hours. Um, Now I feel like it's like the budgets like for the same amount of money they're gonna be like no we're gonna make like 5 shows that are all 10 episodes and pump them out to Netflix. So like I feel like the quality is decreased because people are like no we need quantity. So I don't know. Do you guys feel like similar in that respect?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I mean, look at the amount of streaming services there are. There's just so many crap
Yeah,
shows.
that's a problem.
Just
Like
so
think about it, we now the pattern like you used to go to the movie theater like not a movie theater like a blockbuster back in the day, right? You see like an actor, you'd see a movie and you'd be like that didn't make it in the theaters. Like you know, to straight to DVD like was a thing. Straight to VHS was a thing. Now it's like almost all of our content is that. Like the majority of the
yeah,
content
it's funny, but
is
yes.
straight to DVD in essence, straight to streaming.
Yeah, you just call it what it is, Chris. It's shit. Just say it.
Yeah.
It's
Like, dude, it's
garbage.
funny. Like Netflix movies, like
Yeah.
there's some good ones, but like if you sit there and you watch them and you're like, and actually are like allow yourself, you're thinking about as you watch it, dude. A lot of it is like straight to DVD. Like it's a lot of movement, it's a lot of like flashy things, but there's no substance. Like literally, you could have written the script in like a day. You get a couple people in the room and they're like, all right, we're gonna bang this out, and it's like when you watch it, you're like, I kind of was entertained because there's so much movement, like a cat, right? There's just like so many shiny things that like you're just okay. Da, 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 da. But like if you sit there and you're like, okay, well, what was it about? And you start to like walk through the plot points, you're like, this shit don't make no sense. It's not that good. But like you were entertained because of all of like the flashy things and like the sounds. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
put like a some Hollywood hunk or like an attractive girl in it, and it's like, all right, boom, to the presses, straight to streaming.
What was see?
I kind of slightly disagree though.
But by all means, Joe, that's why you're here. You're here to be the disagreeer.
Now, I agree with you guys that in general, the content, for the most part, it's just it's quantity over quality.
Okay.
But because there's so much stuff out there, I think there's much more quality content than there ever has been before. The
Okay.
problem is there's also a lot more shit that's been before,
Well, we were
if you
talking
get
about
what I
this.
mean.
We talked about this
Yeah.
last week, I think. Yeah, Rob, we talked about this a little bit. Like the whole idea of like when we were younger, there were like theaters that specialize in indie films, and like you could go to them, like the Angelica in the Village. Like you knew, okay, like I want to go see an indie film, and you could just go to that theater, look up their website, and be like, here's I know these are going to all be indie films. So like now, yeah, I mean, dude, there's probably a lot more. I mean, actually, I don't know. Do you think there's definitely more quote unquote independent productions,
Hmm.
but do you think the quality is good? I don't know. Like you probably consume more than I do.
I honestly think that there is more stuff out there, that quality stuff that's out there. So hard to find because
Yeah.
there's, like Rob said, there's so many streaming services. There's so much things that are out there to distract you besides like video media. There's like music and there's podcasts and there's all these other different things. So it's just harder to try to identify things that are out there. And I kind of think that these studios are dropping the ball in terms of promotion. There are things out there that are really good that people have no clue about, and they just don't advertise it. Like I look at the stuff that's on Apple TV Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and even the stuff on Netflix. They don't market anything. They just drop it and expect word of mouth to actually come through and and have a hit TV show like damn, what's that Ben Stiller show on Apple TV Plus?
See, I
I don't
didn't
know.
even know about that. I had
Yeah, I
no
don't know.
clue he even had one.
Yeah, he's not in the show. He actually created the show. It's Severance. That's the name of the show.
It's a
And
comedy.
yeah, it's like a dark comedy. If anything, I think you two would love that show. Everything I
Yeah,
keep hearing about is really good, and they just started their second season. I think they're gonna drop their second season early next year.
Okay.
yeah,
But
but I think the part of that though, Joe, is like the model's different, right? Because back in the day, like you needed to promote a studio needed to promote a production because that's how it made money.
hmm
Whereas if you think about it, like with streaming, it's not about an individual production. It's about
yep,
you paying
you're
for a subscription,
100% right.
right? And I
You
think
want to
Apple, I
prevent
mean,
churn.
correct. It's just like we need to keep you here, so we need to keep your eyes here. It
Hmm.
really doesn't matter like what you're keeping your eyes on. It's, I mean, it does in the sense that we need to keep you here, but in essence, it's like we throw so many things at you. You're gonna find something that's worth that $10 a month, that $15 a month. And I think you would know better than I do, Joe. Like I feel like with Apple, so often they give you. It's almost like the subscription to Apple TV is just like an add-on. Like, oh, you bought a new phone. Like, here's an extra 2 month. Here's a 90-day subscription to Apple TV. Like, do they, right? It like they throw like they give it away pretty frequently for free, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they're starting to change that because
Okay.
corporation's gonna corporation. But
Well, they might look at it and be like, "Dude, we're losing money. Like, we got."
yep, it's
Yeah.
exactly it. But
Uh,
this is stuff that Amazon Prime and Apple TV Plus and Netflix have put out. Like it's so like I don't know if you guys seen Fallout, but it's so good. And
I
I've
don't know what
barely
that
heard.
is. Yeah.
go ahead,
Go
keep
ahead.
going.
Hey, go, keep going. Yeah.
It's so good, and I've barely heard anyone talk about this show.
That's what I'm saying. That's I've never even heard of this. What is this show?
It's
It's
based off of. Go ahead, Chris.
no, go ahead, Joe.
It's based off this video game that came out in the 2000s, but a nuclear kind of like Holocaust set in the 1950s. It's it's surreal, um, and it's really good. I'm trying to remember the dude from.
Yeah, that guy.
I'll
I'm
get his
trying
name.
to.
What does he
Yeah,
look like?
Did you ever see
What
the
is
uh,
it?
movie like the TV show The Shield back in the
yeah.
Oh,
day?
Michael Chiklis.
No, no,
No.
the
His
the
like partner, his like he kind of his like number two in that show.
he
He's
Uh,
has
got
a
like a
southern accent.
crazy nice smile. He was in the show Justified.
Oh,
Um,
Timothy Oliphant.
no,
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 but
no, no.
his
He's the
villain
villain.
in that in Justified though.
He's the villain in Justified.
Okay.
I mean, if you literally Google right now, like villain in Justified, his picture will come up.
Walton
Um,
Goggins.
yeah,
Walton
he's
Goggins.
he's
Oh,
he's
well,
great.
Walter
He's a great.
Goggins. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
he's a
in a
great actor.
yeah.
He's
He
fucking amazing.
he's in
Every
Hateful Eight. He's in
Yeah, he's
Hateful
a
Eight, right?
hateful. Oh
Yes,
god,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
great
yeah,
in
exactly.
that movie.
yeah, yeah. I know who you're talking about now.
But yeah, there's so much good stuff out there, and it's so hard. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, and it never used to be this way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just a very different thing. Like, I also here's a question I'll throw out is that, um, do you think that like the type of entertainment that people will consume is changing? Like, you guys are very much, I mean, myself included. Like, we grew up, I think, at the heyday of indie films, kind of like at the peak, I would imagine. Um, TV, golden age of TV. We were in our 20s. um, Movies, TV. The blockbuster was pretty much came around in I think the 90s. That's when we
Hmm.
were kids. Um, but like, do you like my take is someone who's like knows very little about anything is that like the next like that form of media, that form of entertainment is kind of, I don't say it's on its way out, but is not going to be the supreme form of entertainment like the next generation. Like I wonder if the pendulum is swinging from like scripted entertainment to like another form of entertainment. Like, I think they say like YouTube, for example, like the younger generation. So like I would say not even the generation that came after us, but the next generation, like people who are maybe 14 to 18 right now, maybe 14 into early 20s, like they consume more media on YouTube than they do like scripted entertainment. So like I actually wonder if like we're like all the streaming service, all the content, like it serves us and our like generation. But I wonder like when the people who are with the next 10 years, when a 14-year-old is in their mid 20s, like are they going to be watching Netflix if Netflix is around? Are they going to be watching scripted entertainment? Or are they going to be like, no, like I'd rather watch a comedian or this YouTube channel where this person's a real person making content? Like, I wonder if there's actually a shift taking place.
I,
I I'll go.
Go
Let me
ahead, Rob.
jump in first, Joe.
Yeah,
Then I'll
go
then
ahead.
I'll toss it to you. Uh, I think there is a shift taking place. However, I think the mainstream media is catching on to the fact that, as you alluded to, Chris, the the real person reacting to shows and or giving their thoughts or going on monologues or giving their analysis on things, especially news
Yeah.
is more of a it's more attractive now to the younger generation. But I think still the highest what gets you the highest ratings is the shows that pretend to be real but that are scripted.
Such
You know what I'm saying?
as? What do you mean? Like, give me an example.
Like every Real Housewife show you can think of, every dance show and competition show you can think of. If you don't think American Idol and America's Got Talent and Real Housewives and The Bachelor and The Bachelorette is not scripted, you're an idiot. You're an
Yeah, but
idiot.
like, so do you think, but like, again, what age, like Housewives, for example, what do you think is the average age of the person who watches that show?
I would say the average age, I would say
Yeah.
probably
Like,
early 30s.
all right. So, like, again, so that's early 30s.
Yeah.
So that's our generation.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Just
next, that's like our
a little bit
generation
behind
and
us.
then after us. But
Yeah.
like, I'd say 30 to 50 is
That's
probably
probably right. Yeah.
right that consume that form that's like that's also people who grew up on like Real World, Road Rules,
Yeah, exactly. Those
all that
shows.
stuff,
Yeah.
Jersey Shore.
Exactly. Yeah.
um but like now let's like go back, let's go another 20 years from now, like that's like someone who's 14, like because that's the thing about it, like if you're a big corporation, you're also like you're looking that far back. Like, okay, that's my next customer base. That's who we need to plan for, because when we get that 14-year-old, I'm going to have that 14-year-old from 14 to like 60, right? You know what I mean? I wonder what they're going to consume, because they're not consuming that.
No, they're not. You're right. They're more YouTube, TikTok, anyone who's like streaming themselves playing video games and things
Yeah.
like that. That's the new era of entertainment. Correct.
Yeah,
I
so
would
like
agree.
that to me, like when you brought up that question, Joe, that's where my mind went. I was like, okay, like what? Like think about it. Logan Paul is worth more than most. I'm just basing this off of my own opinion. I could be very wrong with this, but I would have bet you he's worth more than most actors that we grew up watching their stuff. Think about that for a second. He is probably worth more than the majority of actors and Friends. He might be worth more. Nah, I'm not gonna say Seinfeld because he's worth a lot. But he's probably worth more. He probably is his net worth is probably greater than the vast majority of actors we watched from age 15 to now. Like he actually makes more money than most of them. His content has probably more views historically than most people we watch, except for like the high level like of Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, like the high of the high. Like these guys, they have more views. People actually watch more. They actually make more money. So like that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Joe, what do you think? I need Joe's, because I think he's more well versed on this than any one of
Yes,
us three.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be an audience for scripted storytelling. I think the human nature wants to find out about just scripted storytelling and kind of get an escape from whatever life that they're in at the moment. But I also think that it's cheaper for these studios and these companies to come up with unscripted stories. So they're pushing that a little bit more. So I've heard stories from like Warner Brothers, the guy in charge, he comes from the world of reality TV, and it's just cheaper to make that content. So they're just gonna push that out there. So it's a twofold thing. I think it's easier for someone to just sit down and for like maybe half an hour or an hour just follow whatever is unscripted that's out there and not have to follow a story that's playing out over 2 months or 3 months of the year.
So let me ask you this question, Joe. Do you think that like authenticity is increasing in value, or is it just like perceived authenticity? Like, does that question make sense?
No, it makes sense. I kind of think it's just people want to see personas, whether it's authentic or not. I don't think people generally care. It kind of reminds me of wrestling. Like
Yeah, exactly.
some people some people know it's real, some people don't, but in the whole scheme of things, they just want to be entertained. And if someone identifies with a particular personality, then they're gonna gravitate towards it.
Are
What do
you
you think?
are you trying to shit on wrestling? Don't you dare do that, because then this is gonna go down a different path if you do that.
So let
But
me ask you this,
I do
Joe.
agree.
So
I do agree that everyone knows wrestling is it's not fake. Don't
Yeah,
ever
but
use the word
some
fake.
some
It's
kids
scripted.
don't though. It takes some time for them to
Yeah, but they're
realize
like
that.
10, dude. They're like 10 years old. That's fine. That's fine. You can believe John Cena is the man when you're 10 years old. There's nothing wrong with that, man. But it's. I mean, we can't do this now. This is a whole different day. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
yeah, but so like, all right, with wrestling though. So I think wrestling, and I'm not like a huge wrestling fan, but I become an appreciator via talking with specifically with Rob. But like I was listening to a podcast the other day with a wrestler, and they were talking about it, and he was saying pretty much he was saying the same thing. Like people know it's not real, but it's like both sides buy into the illusion. Like I'm going to allow my, you know what I mean? Like it's like going to a play, right? Like I know that you're not a real person, but I'm going to allow myself to, fall under the spell of this. And then very quickly, my mind is like, sees the character, not the person. And he was saying, with wrestling, the thing is that you're kind of playing that character all the time in a way. Like when people approach you, they're not approaching, Robert Avery. They're approaching the character that he plays, and kind of like it's part of the deal. Like I'm gonna kind of allow you to. I'm gonna be that character a little bit, even when I'm not in the ring. And so, like, yeah, you're playing a character. It's not 100% you, but like you're always that character. And I kind of feel like that's the same thing with some of the stuff like on YouTube, like with authenticity. Like, yeah, you're not necessarily being you, but you are kind of like in life playing that character. Whereas like scripted television, it's like here's an actor saying someone else's words, and like I mean, I guess it's the same thing as rest. I don't know. I'm rambling. Go ahead. Someone
I
skip
have a
me.
question for you too.
Go ahead.
When was the last time you guys were at a movie theater to watch anything?
Me recently.
That's a good question. I haven't been to the theater since I was actually with Chris. Since the Batman. I haven't
a long
been.
time, dog.
It's like over 2 years. No, a year, like 18 months. I haven't been to the theater in 18 months.
I've seen 3 movies actually in the last. I mean, it would be in the last year. So I've actually been to the movie theater quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, but I think Joe, you're touching on a really good point, because I love just the pageantry of going to the theater. I love the theater. I love the smell of the shitty popcorn. I love remember when we were growing up in the 90s where the carpets smelled like cigarettes and all that shit. I never forget that smell, the smell of the carpet, but you could still smell the cigarette smoke. It's all red, the velvet ropes.
Well, and it was an event. It was an event, right?
It.
Like you went with
that's
your family.
Gone, Chris. That's completely gone now.
I mean, dude. So I don't know. Like, I've gone to the movie theater 3 times in the last year. Once was like for a bigger movie, and there was like people there, right? So like, where I went kind of like at a time where there would be more people. I saw the last Deadpool in the movie theater actually. And there's people there, and it's funny, like young people still go. It's like you see you see yourself. You see groups of friends, kids going. So like, I don't think it's dead. It's definitely obviously different, right? Because it's like a lot of movies that are in theater. It's like the lag time between theater to streaming is like very short now. Like almost in some cases, it's like a week difference. Like you could have probably watched Deadpool on Amazon Prime, especially if you're willing to pay for it, like almost at the same time. So like I think that's different, and that's affected people. Like a lot of people are gonna say, I don't want to go there. I'll watch it at home on like my nice ass TV versus going around and being around people. But I do think like if you like to your point, Joe, if the desire for human beings to watch like drama and scripted entertainment never goes away. I think also the idea of like watching something with a group of people will probably never go away either.
I don't think it will.
Right? It'll dwindle, but I also have a theory, and I want to throw this out to you guys. Like, especially with like AI as a conversation point. Like people talk about how like, especially entertainment will be taken over. You'll be able to make things very easily and da 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 da. We can have that conversation a different day about AI because it's too big a topic. But my point is that like I do think that entertainment will actually like live entertainment will increase in value. I think at the same rate that it becomes easier to make entertainment via like let's say AI, because I think it actually puts a premium on A, like human entertainment, and B, like being around people, an event. Whether it's like a play or a live performance or even going to see something in a theatrical environment. I think there's something we're at like kind of like a transition period where like we like getting entertainment quick and easy, and also we like that there's an overabundance. But I
Hmm.
think it'll hit a point where then it becomes a premium where you want to go out of your way. Like, I'm tired of watching stuff on my TV by myself. I want to go be around people, or I want to go to watch this spectacle. I mean, that's why I think part of the reason why like comedy is like kind of had this like massive, like live comedies had like this massive renaissance, because it's like a one-off thing. It's not repeated. You're with people and you're in like the real world, right? I think there's like that will actually increase in value, I think, in the coming future.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I'm rambling today, so like
No,
feel
no,
free
no.
to like chop that.
I'm gonna just start cutting you off. Yeah.
Fine, that's fine. I'm monologuing
No,
too
no.
much. It's not good.
He's the host. He's the host of this shindig. But two things. And then I have a question for Joe, which is the second part. So do you think it's I think biologically and scientifically the energy that you have when you're surrounded by people is a good thing, and that's why people want to go to live events and be around people, because there's for lack of a better term, there's an aura, there's something, like you feel like you're being a part of something special. And that's why I think music concerts and musical theater and plays have like the price gouging has gone so high, because people enjoy being out in public, even though you may be with someone, or if you're family or friends, whatever. Same thing with sports. The prices have gone up so high because, don't even get me started on the corporations, because we that should be a whole nother show. the cor the owners and the franchises and the corporate yahoos realize this, so now they're hiking up the prices for everything, because they know people, like Chris said, there's an allure to this. People want to be surrounded by other human beings, because biologically the energy, you can feed off the energy, and it's good. And I agree as well, as someone that wants to be very social. I agree. So, but then the second part for Joe is, this is my question. Out of all this content that's being made, and you said the quantity, it's quantity over quality now, what does that say about the audiences that are consuming this content? I think, yes, people are going to try to make a quick buck out of all these streaming services. The suits that are the executives that are running all these companies. What does that say about the audiences that they just lap it up? Instead of searching for the quality, they just consume the quantity. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but
Uh,
I think the onus should be on the producers, not the audience. The audience has only like a finite amount of free time available, and a finite amount of time uh, to use on watching something. And if the producers put out certain content, and this is all that the audience has to watch, the audience is gonna watch something, whether it's a shitty like unscripted television series on like HBO Max, or uh if it's some sequel from like the 10th movie of a movie series for like 10 years ago. it, they're gonna go out and watch something and try to enjoy the small amount of time available that they have. So I think the onus is on the producers to come out with better content, not always try to find the quickest buck.
all right, but all right, I'll challenge that here.
Okay.
But shouldn't you as a consumer do your research and know where you're watching, and not just get I would say inundated with content that you really don't like, and you're just doing it just because you're lazy and you don't want to find the right quality? There is some onus on the audience. Yes?
I, I
Or no?
still I still think it should be on the producers. Like I can think of like when I was a kid and I wanted to watch some shitty movie. Let's say I wanted to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 because I love the first two, and my parents, they didn't have the time to look into seeing if this movie was good or if it was appropriate for me. because of the violence that the first movie had. Was it appropriate for me to watch the sequels? They didn't have the time or the resources to do that. So I don't know if I can put the onus on the audience to do the research to find out if it's good or if it's appropriate. It's on to me. It's on the onus of the producers to look at what is working and also kind of push out things that they feel that are good and not just look for the quick buck. They have to start looking at things not as a only a corporation, but also as an art. Like, and also put out more variety. Like when I feel like in the 2000s, I could watch like a comedy at a movie theater and it was hilarious. And I can't do that anymore. There's no more comedies like there's no more
It's a good
Wedding
point.
Crashers
That's a good
or
point. Yeah,
there's no more American Pie in the theater. It's all on
yeah.
streaming, and part of the enjoyable experience of going to a theater is to laugh. I think that's part of the reason why Marvel used to be good because not only was there the spectacle of the action, but they made you laugh too.
Mm.
And I feel like
Yeah.
that's not there. That there's the void is there's no void of comedy. It's just it's all on streaming now. And I feel like there should be executives out there who don't come from the business background. They should be coming from the creative background.
Oh
And
yeah,
they should be the
definitely.
ones pushing out content.
Yeah. So all right. So I only agree partially with that. Very small part because McDonald's is available to everyone. Should everyone just go eat McDonald's all day every day? Come on, you like it's not on if you leave it up to the executives and the producers like you're saying, you're expecting them to have some type of morality. They ain't going to do it.
That which is true.
So
That's true.
um and second point is if you I hear what you're saying about the type of content that's just lighthearted and people can consume and just almost like in the background. Essentially, you don't really have to pay attention because everyone's on
Hmm.
their phone now. That's why I think in Hollywood for those like right after the pandemic. So I think that era ended now. So from pretty much 2001 to 2023, everything got super serious, and I think you kind of mentioned that everything was sad and miserable and every movie that and TV show on the Emmy that won an Emmy, every movie that won an Oscar was like way too serious and way too sad and no one was having fun anymore. You see what I'm saying? So they
Yeah,
overcorrected. They overcorrected it.
but there's always cycles of that. Like during the
Yeah.
'70s, there was barely any comedy. It's really more like you said, like the gritty, serious, like content. And then I think it's part of the times that we're in. Like the '80s, people wanted to get away from that grittiness and the realism of the '70s, and they wanted to see more
Beverly Hills Cop,
stylized. Yeah, and
Lethal
they wanted
Weapon.
to,
Mm-hmm.
huh?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying like Beverly Hills Cop, Lethal Weapon, like fun movies.
Yeah,
80s was
Yeah,
fun
fun.
movies.
Exactly.
and I think coming from the pandemic, I think people are um, kind of programmed to stay home and to watch stuff. And I think now, 4 years removed, they want to get out now. They want to have fun, and I think the the producers, the people in Hollywood, they're late they're late to the game. They haven't caught up to that kind of mentality that some people have to try to get a bit of an escape from
Hmm.
the real life situations that people have.
So, Joe, sorry, Joe. That was that. Yeah, I think, dude, Joe is he's like a philosopher. He's like a philosopher of entertainment. Um, I mean, again, it's like you're talking about the relationship between business and like the producers and the consumers, like the business and the the consumers, the customers of that, right? And that's like a relationship, right? So I guess part of it's like I think you're both right in that as the consumer's taste changes, by default, the people pumping out the product are gonna they change. There's a lag time though, right? Like if the people are tired of listening of watching drama and dramatic stuff, there'll be a lag, but eventually, those people producing will be like, oh, wait, they don't like this anymore. Like the trend is ended. Okay, well, what's the next trend? Oh, well, they're super into comedy now, and then you'll see like a backlog of like comedy stuff start to come up. Like I feel like there's always going to be like a that friction, because then eventually they'll be producing comedies endlessly, and then the taste will change.
Hmm.
They'll keep producing comedies for a while, and then like, oh shit, like they're all about like, you know the Joker and like drama again. Okay, boom, we gotta pump, we gotta change everything, change the system, and then start pumping out dramas again. Like you know what I mean? Like I think that's the one thing, like the art and the product. I mean, it's called the entertainment business. Like that's the hardest thing. Like it's really a business before it ever was. It's art. It's like artists decide to try to live within that business structure, but at the end of the day, it's business. Like if they're not making profits, they ain't gonna sell it, right? You know what I mean? So I think that's what happens is like when they start to stop making profit, it forces them to adapt, and like that's like the only thing I think that ever really will affect them.
But
You know what I
here's the
mean? Like
problem, though.
artistic integrity is like I don't think ever part of the equation.
Here's the problem with that. There, there was a news item like I think a month ago where Lionsgate they decided to use AI to select scripts that they think would be more likely to make money as opposed to the ones that they've been greenlighting now.
Hmm.
So I, I don't know. I just feel like
What
they
and what was the
need
result of that?
they just started doing it. So
Okay.
I guess that's to be seen, but it's just weird seeing studios so clueless in terms of what to do. If they what they should really do is try to figure out what the audience wants instead of just spoon feeding the audience what they think they want.
But I mean, again, it's like obviously the audience is consuming it because again, it's like if I sell bananas and people stop eating bananas, I'm not going to be able to keep spoon feeding them bananas. I'm going to be like, oh shit, no one's buying my bananas. I got to sell them apples. So I mean, I'm not like, someone who works in the entertainment business, but I would imagine it is the same. Like, you know what I mean? If people are not consuming, like if Netflix stopped putting good stuff on their streaming service, eventually they see a tip off point. People just stop resubscribing. I mean, they're also increasing their prices. So, like, I don't think you can spoon feed people things that they don't want. Like, obviously, there's enough people who want what these people are pumping out. Otherwise, they would stop. You know what I mean? It's just like the supply and demand would automatically like solve that problem. I think.
Yeah, but that
Yes,
goes. It's so
yes, but
sorry. Go
movie
ahead.
theaters, I think movie theaters aren't. I feel like they haven't rebounded since the pandemic.
They
Now,
haven't.
streaming
Yeah.
services
Okay.
streaming service that's a different story, but movie theaters haven't. And
Nope.
they still have this certain mindset that they can put out whatever they want and people will come to the movie theater to watch it. And it's just not the case. I
But
think
I
the
don't. Is
movie
that
theater
true though?
experience is, huh?
But like, do you really think that's true? Like, movie theaters, I think the margins are like very small, right? Like so like
Hmm.
they're not
Yes, it
because they
is.
make all their money in concessions. So,
Hmm.
I mean, wouldn't that defy what you're saying? Because like for them, they're very aware of what they put in the theater because it's all about I need to get as many people in here as I can on a regular basis because they need to be buying food. So like if people are not coming, if they have 5 movies in there and no one is coming and they can see the numbers, like very quickly they know, okay, like this is not getting them in the seats. We need to switch it out. Like I would almost think that they're more incentivized or more able to determine what people want to watch, for better or worse, than streaming services. Because streaming services is just like I'm taking money out of their account every month, right? They have to make no action. They have to make an action to actually stop that. So I just care that there's enough entertainment there that they don't realize that they're not getting value and leave. The movie theater, I got to go to the movie theater. I got to pull money out of my pocket or get a card. And you know what I mean? It takes action. So if they're making money still, like in my mind, they know exactly what people want to watch.
Yeah, but
But
Like, does that make sense?
it does, but they haven't been. This year, from what I read, is the smallest amount of billion-dollar movies in recent history, like in the past like 20, 30 years. And it's been like that for the past 3 or 4 years, where there hasn't the last huge movie that besides Deadpool and Wolverine, which is the first one since, I think the besides that was I think Top Gun Maverick.
yeah.
And they haven't had anything to like turn people in. Like usually for the summer, it's one big movie every other week.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't happened this summer. It's just one movie the whole year. One. So
Yeah.
movie theaters, they've had that problem, and the movie theater experience has kind of gone down the drain. And they put it. I think they borrowed like $2 or $3 billion to um, reinvest in each of the theaters. So they're gonna try to make the theater experience better. But even then, it's just like how much can you do? There's so many things to go into it. Where the food is not always great, the the clientele that comes in kind of disrupts the movie theater experience with cell phones being on and talking during the movie. It it's a crazy situation that they're in, and if you don't have movies that can overcome those,
Yeah.
then there's going to be a huge problem, and you can see these theaters going out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, go ahead. What were we gonna say,
Yeah,
Joe?
yeah.
Or Rob?
No, he's the so Chris sounds like he's being an apologist for the financial side of it, which I don't like. I'm gonna tell you,
No, I mean, I'm
but
not.
I see
I'm just
what you're
saying,
saying.
like, it's like you can only expect businessmen to be businessmen. To
Yeah,
expect them to be
but that's not
counter
an
to their.
excuse. That's not
I
an
mean, it
excuse to
kind of.
dilute the artistic quality of the film. Come on.
I mean, it's too. It's too. I think it's too. It's asking. It's asking a business person to be an artist when they're not an artist.
Well,
Yeah,
basically, what I'm saying, there should be more of a balance between the two, and
Right.
I feel like there's an imbalance.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, there probably is because again, it's like it's entertainment business. It's like they're going to make the thing that they know they can sell. They have no incentive to do otherwise.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the issue.
true. That's true. But that doesn't, for me, if you make a movie good enough, or television show, whatever form of entertainment, play, musical, whatever, if it's good enough, it'll be financially successful. It has to be good enough though. But it's what you were talking about earlier, the churn. It's all about just pumping out these like short term, it's like pop shots, where we're just gonna make a quick buck on this. We're gonna do, it's gonna be boom, 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 boom. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. And we're just gonna keep gobbling up money. That's that's what I don't like. If it's good enough, it'll make the money. You just gotta give it. You just gotta put the quality in it. But yeah, Chris, you're right in the sense that that's their goal. That's their mindset when they go in and the studios approve all these scripts. That's what they're doing. Yes, correct. I just don't think that's the right way. When look at the film industry for the last 100 years, it wasn't like that until now. And then you get shit movies like the seventh Jurassic Park movie, which is absolute dog shit. And then you get, but
But again, they made. I mean,
but it
again,
made
like
$1 billion.
made a lot of
Yeah,
money. So
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like think about this. It's like when when you're about to pony up $1 billion to make a movie, you can't not make that money back.
So
Like
then there's a systemic problem in the
that's my point. My
in the
point is
Hollywood
like,
industry.
yeah, my point is like, and I think it's you guys were kind of talking about it earlier, like of like, do you need to raise the bar from the like, is it the responsibility of the studio to raise the bar, or is it the responsibility of the consumer to become more like
Yeah,
educated is the wrong word, but like
to hold them accountable,
their
and raise the
palate to
standard,
change.
to raise the standard. Yeah.
And I guess I think it's like it's always going to be the consumer because it like if you're gonna pony up, this is interesting, we kind of went into we're talking about money, which is interesting, I didn't expect this. Like if you're about to pony up $1 billion, no one's paying that out of their pocket, So they got investments. Maybe they took money out of a bank. They took a bank loan to pay for this massive undertaking. Like, think of these Mission Impossible movies. They're like insanely, they're probably more than $1 billion, some of these movies, right? So it's
Yeah.
all about, I need to know that I'm going to make not $1 billion. I need to make like $1.5 billion. So it's like, I'm going to bank, I'm going to do the thing I know I'm going to sell. If the audience was like, I'm not going to buy this, like, let's say they made a Mission Impossible movie and it was $1 billion just to make it, and they made 200 million, they will never make another Mission Impossible movie ever again.
Yeah, true. You got to pay Tom Cruise $40 million right off the bat. So that's
Like, dude,
you're right.
like, you know, like during the I think it was during COVID, and they were shooting, somehow they got the allowed to continue to shoot like this last Mission Impossible movie. And if you recall, this was like big on like the internet. Like, someone in the crew was not abiding by one of the COVID regulations, and like Tom Cruise, they had recording, went off on them.
Mhm.
Like, you remember this, Joe? I think we might have talked
Yeah,
about.
I remember this.
He went off on them, railed against them, and some of the things he was talking about was kind of like, it was interesting because he was like, we are like, quote unquote, saving the entertainment industry.
That's his mindset.
Well, but it also is kind of, but if you look at the money too, I mean, they're gonna, it's again, it's a product that they're making. It's gonna be worth, let's say, $2 billion. Think about all of the people that are connected to that. Like, it's a product. It's worth a lot of money. So like, that's how it is in that world, right? It's all about like, it's gonna cost X to make. We're gonna get out of it X plus blank. And like, if we don't get our money back or we lose money, we're going to learn quick. We'll never make that again. Like, that's not the right direction. So like, I don't think you can ever hope that like the producer, like, I mean, like the studio will ever change. Like, if people want to buy what they want to sell, they ain't going to change. If they start losing money on it real quick, they're going to change real quick. You want another Jurassic Park movie to come out? They lose money. There'll never be a Jurassic Park movie ever again. But people like them. I mean, I don't know how you can explain that, but people like them.
Yeah.
Here's the example, though.
Go ahead.
With Mission Impossible, I just looked it up. Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 1. It's hilarious. That movie dropped in box office from the previous one. So that one made $570 million, right? The previous
in
one,
theater.
And
In theater.
yeah, worldwide.
Yeah. Damn.
The previous film, Mission Impossible Fallout, made $800 million worldwide.
Damn. Think about that. That's crazy.
That's
That's
a,
crazy
that's
for
a
that
major
drop off.
drop.
But can you look up the numbers for its total revenue?
Yeah, like the streaming sales, the renting, and the
Because
buying.
we're also talking about a couple year difference where the patterns change, where they're just like, it's not so important.
no,
They
no,
might have made another 750 million in these other channels.
Yeah,
So
no.
the budget for Dead Reckoning was 291 million, and
Absolutely absurd. 300
Crazy.
million budget for a movie? Are you fucking serious? Wow.
Good movie.
And-
I like these
But
movies.
the crazy part is it doesn't all go to the studio. It gets split up between the movie theater, the studio, and then the actors and directors and the cast and crew.
The craft services on that set was probably elite.
Oh, probably. They had probably ahi tuna, man.
Yeah, they probably had like lobster tails and
So,
stuff like that.
so the one thing I wanted to change the subject briefly was just like, studios are studios. Like, so like, let's even put them like that. That's like a separate category, right? That's like, you're dealing with a corporation. So I don't think you should ever expect more from them. Like, it's a business, so they're going to deal with things from a business perspective. I guess my question goes back to what you said earlier, Joe, and it's more of a question of search. Like, it's never been easier to make an indie film. I'm curious if there actually is more indie, good quality films now than there were in like the 2000s, right? I wonder, because I also wonder if really it is a question of taste. Like, our consumption has changed, where we want horror quality things. Like think about it. They used to have like Sundance Film Festival. I don't even know if it's still. Do they still do
It's
Sundance
still a
Film
thing.
Festival?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
still a thing.
So like
Con is still there too.
Con is definitely so like you had these made like indie films was a big thing. I don't know. Is it a question of we just can't find and easily search like things are not being advertised as
I
well,
think that's
or are
exactly
there
it.
actually less good quality indie films?
I truly believe that there's more quality content out there for people to watch on a daily basis than ever before. It's just that it's so hard to find it now. Everything is so splintered, so fractured that you can't find it. And these companies don't advertise anymore. They put all of their budgeting into social media, and it's everything everything, whether the content is fractured or the media, the marketing for it is also fractured. So it's hard to sift through the content and find good things. But I definitely have seen, especially through the streaming services, not through the theaters, because the theaters they have this mentality where in order to bring in people into the theaters, they need to have big, bombastic kind of movies to put on their big screens, to put on the big audio for people to come in. And I think that's a dumb move. But in streaming services, you can see that there's a lot of indie stuff, and not even indie stuff, a lot of mid tier content too. That's really good.
Hmm.
I think that's the thing that's
Yeah.
lost. I think the indie stuff will always be there. People will always want to create and watch indie stuff, but it's the mid tier stuff that's gone.
Like what would be like a mid tier thing? Like
Yeah.
what's an example of that?
Like a $70 million or $80 million like drama. Trying to figure out a movie
Okay,
or
like
something that I've
think of like a
watched.
movie. Like,
Um,
Yeah, like a horror film or something like that.
Horror, I kind of feel is like in the indie realm. You can make that cheaply, and people will watch it because people love horror.
Yeah.
Um, I watched
yeah, like a.
Tetris. I watched Tetris on Apple Plus. That movie
Mhm.
is fucking good, but it's not this big bombastic movie. It's just a good movie, and it's not cheap, but it's a good movie that I think most audiences would actually appreciate.
Yeah.
Mm,
What
yeah.
about like Ex Machina? Is that like that
Yeah,
level?
that's another mid tier movie. That's not a movie that was made for $100 million.
Yeah.
That's a
No.
No,
movie that was
I like that
made for
movie a
well
lot.
under that.
Yeah, that movie is awesome, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I would say like it's again, it's never been easier to make a movie.
Hmm. The
So that's why
technology
again,
is there.
dude, you can make probably a very good film if you had like the right skill set and like artistic vision with iPhones. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you probably could. Like, sorry, let me close the door.
what
Again,
was
but
that?
here's the thing. Sorry, it was a
Sounded like the Terminator was
delivery.
coming in.
Yeah, right. I think a couple things, Joe, and then we'll start to wind down. One, I think, is like movie theaters. They're investing a lot more money in the presentation of films, like 3D, 2D, IMAX, 3D, 4D in some of these places where
It's so
like mid
gimmicky
tier
though.
is not going to go there, right? You're going to go there for a spectacle, which is that. I mean, I'm not going to make a judge, but again, like if they're going to invest in that direction, you're not going to. It's like you're not going to go watch stand up. On that's a poor example, but like you know what I mean. Like you're going there for a spectacle, so you're gonna see Iron Man. You're gonna see these Marvel movies. You're gonna see uh, Mission Impossible, where people are jumping off things and whatnot. Right? Like that makes sense. You're not gonna go see like an indie film in one of these theaters more often than not. So that's one thing. What was I
But
gonna
I still
say?
think there's an audience for people who want to watch things like The Hangover at a theater and get that environment of a bunch of people laughing at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I agree.
it's
I
just
don't disagree.
these, huh?
No, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah,
I feel like they're not thinking about these things. They're just thinking of like high end uh box office. They're not thinking of like the middle ground, and people still want to watch those things.
I
Yeah,
mean, again, I go back to
you're right.
like it's money, right? Like if
Hmm.
theater, it's gonna be a money thing, right? It's if I can make a $4 million profit or I can make a $40 million profit, I'm gonna make the $40 million profit. Um,
But
yeah,
that's a
I don't know.
gamble though, because
Yeah,
what
I
if
don't
you?
know.
I feel like
You can flop with a comic book movie easily,
yes, you can, and it's been
easily.
happening with
Yeah,
Marvel of all places.
Yeah,
They used to
look
hit
at
all
that
the time.
that
Now
black.
they're flopping.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but when they are flopping, what is this? They're still making profits. So I wonder what their profits are.
I feel like the last few movies barely been making a profit.
Black
Except Deadpool
Black
Wolverine.
Widow was DC, right, Joe?
No,
No,
DC.
that
that's Marvel.
That was Marvel.
Marvel. Yeah,
No,
that's
they
Marvel.
lost. They
Marvel.
lost a shitload of money on that. They
Marvel.
lost. That was one of the worst movies ever. No, notice how they just swept that right under the rug. Even though I like Sydney Sweeney, you shoved Sydney Sweeney,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but
I mean, still,
that
go
was
ahead,
a
go ahead.
tank. That was a tanker. That was a bad one. But I know what you're saying, Chris. I know everyone is profit driven and they want to maximize their margins and monetize all their content.
But
But
they can make more money
you could
by
still make a good movie and make that profit. You could still do it.
just
Again,
diversify.
I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, two things, and then I want to get your final thoughts. One, I think it's like to expect people, for them, it's money, right? I can make 10 productions, or I can make one massive thing and make the same amount of money. I'm gonna make the one instead of the 10. That's one thing, right? So, like, why would a big studio make 10 indie films that are $50 million each, and then they give me a net profit of I don't know X?
You
When I
know
can make
why?
one,
You know
I can make
why? Because
one and get the
they
same or more.
they would help their movie theaters. Because if there's multiple movies that came out and they made decent amount of money, they could
Well,
sell
they don't care. I don't think.
concessions, they could sell tickets, and that'll help those theaters. And in turn, they'll want to display even more movies.
Yeah,
They're
but
not.
again,
I
I
feel
don't
like
think.
they're not thinking.
I think when they do that, but this way, the business people are thinking more about money than you or I. So like, they're
Yes.
definitely doing the math, and it like they look at a spreadsheet and they say, okay, like this is the right strategy. Might not make any sense, might not be good for us, but like they look at the numbers, right? So like that's to me, I 100%. I trust that they're doing the math and the math makes sense. But it's kind of like that's how you get like a Miss Piggy movie, and you're like, this is ridiculous. You paid like $100 million on this movie, but they did the math. They were like, hey, it worked out. That's why like your AI thing, it'll probably work. It doesn't mean that the quality like we'll enjoy, but they'll do the math and they'll say somehow it makes sense because we look at the numbers and we're getting money, and that's our goal. That's their goal. I mean, that's their goal. I think what your point about search is an interesting one because right? Like, unless you have a way to catalog and raise to the surface these kind of like smaller voices, like you don't know, and like that is a problem. Like Amazon has millions of movies. There's probably so many hidden gems there, so many indie directors, but unless they're promoting themselves, it's like you're trusting that somehow the Amazon algorithm will bring their product to the surface, which is like that's why there's things that you'll never know. It's almost like a script that ends up on a studio and it's like they buy it and they never make it and no one ever
Hmm.
knows that story. It's now that they're actually making it. It's just that still no one will ever see that thing because there's no like publicity. But Joe, we're coming up to an hour. Like, I don't know, give me your hope for the future of the entertainment business? Like in the next 10 years, what do you hope to see or what do you think you'll see in how we consume entertainment and also like the business? Like, do you think a trend will change or are we kind of in this for the long haul?
I honestly think we are in it for the long haul. I wish it would change. I wish there would these theaters wouldn't they would have small theaters for certain movies and big theaters for the massive movies. But they're all going into the massive theater variety. They're trying to go more for 3D, more 4D experience, more IMAX, more Dolby surround sound. I think they should diversify. When you diversify, I feel like there's less of a chance of you coming out with with all these massive busts that come out. Because there's always going to be something that someone wants to watch, and not everyone's going to want to watch the big thing. But I kind of feel like the movie theaters are going in this bigger is better direction. And I don't know if that's going to work out for the long run. Maybe for now, but I just don't see how it's going to work. As for the streaming services, everything is so splintered, and you can kind of see it now where there's these ads of like bundling things again. It's so weird. Every Everyone wanted to get away from cable because it was getting so expensive with all the bundling of all these channels, and everyone was doing their own personal streaming stuff. And now I feel like it's going to swing around the other end, where now you see these ads with Max and Disney Plus and Hulu getting together, or in like the sports, you have ESPN and Max getting together to have like this sports bundling service. It's it's everything is so fractured. It's harder for the audience to figure out where things are and how to consume it, and they need to simplify things. That's just
That's
my two
interesting.
cents.
Yeah, dude, that's like really interesting. I never
Mm-hmm.
thought about the bundling thing. It's
Yeah.
almost like we're going full circle.
It's almost becoming cable again.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Bobby A, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, I think, just the dilution of just artistic quality is getting my goat. Because you see a lot of nonsense on television now, and I don't think you guys are blaming them, but I blame the audience for a large portion of it, because, like you said, they're gobbling it.
But so
And
sorry to interrupt, but that's human nature.
but
This Some people want to turn off their brains and just gobble up garbage.
not
I
acceptable by me. Not acceptable.
But it's always been that way.
Yeah, yeah, but you could still make good product, and
That's on the producer.
yeah, that's just, yeah. We're gonna have to just disagree on that, because I think, I think, I mean, I'm no, the, the producers have ruined a lot of shows that I've loved for a long time, so we're not gonna get into that, because they're, and it's all for the dollar.
This is
Because
the dark night of Twitter, ladies and
yeah,
gentlemen, man.
yeah,
You find him there.
yeah. Oh, I'm in.
So Rob, sorry, I know as final thought, but like
Uh,
Letter Kenny, what would you consider Letter Kenny as far as like?
It used
It's definitely commercial,
it used to be independent, but now it's mainstream. It's
or like
commercialized.
what's the other show? The one where he's the Shorzy.
Shorzy. It's
Is
even
that
more commercialized.
mainstream or is that
Yeah.
is that commercial or is that indie?
Oh no, definitely commercial.
But do you like it? Do you think it's good? The quality?
Not the last season. No.
Okay, all right.
But the first season was pretty good, and yeah, no, it's definitely not under the radar at all, because every hockey player, anyone involved in the pro hockey around the world, it doesn't even have to be NHL. It could be European hockey, like international play. Everyone has watched Shorzy. That's
Okay.
how big it's gotten. So even they've gotten guys on Spittin' Chicklets as one of the actors on it now. So no, it's not. But to round out my point, yes, I don't like the state of Hollywood now. I think Hollywood went super serious. What Joe said before, it went super serious during COVID, where everything was about being like, well, what's her name, Frances McDormand, where the movie where she's homeless, and that movie won. Come on, man! Like, do we really have to be sad all the time? Yeah, I actually like her as an actor, but she's not that movie was horrible. But it cleaned up. It fucking cleaned up. And now it's back to, they're trying to do the popcorn stuff with all the comic book and stuff, which I was never into to begin with. So I just think quality and artistic value will always shine through, and it seems like it's become all financial, and I just can't stand it. And my last point will be, the audiences, the people consuming it, don't just mindlessly watch things. Pick things out that you actually have a vested interest in, and that have actual quality, like artistic quality to it. That would be my message to everyone. So that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of the Draxx Life. Hope you have a good night. Peace.
Peace.